Good evening and welcome to Chess on the Brain with David Bennett. So tonight I'm going to analyze a game by Jamaal Abdul-Alim. He's a great guy and a chess journalist, as well as a higher education journalist. There's his Twitter page. I think my video might be blocking a little bit, but there's his Twitter. And also I ask everyone, if you have like a song or if you have, or based on your country, if you want to submit something. So, like yesterday I did someone from Switzerland, so we did some Swiss music, and Jamaal recommended doing some Nas featuring Pete Rock the World instrumental. So we're going to kind of have some background music. And also I just started up a Patreon account. Figured why not give it a shot. So if you guys like what I'm putting out there in terms of analyzing your games or anything else I'm putting out, just feel free to pitch in a little bit, like $1 a month or something, or you could just go ahead and give me recommendations anyway, or submit your games, and either way I'll do it. But hey, if you can afford to pitch in, why not? I'd appreciate it, and it'll help me to do what I'm doing. All right, so let's go to his game. He was playing with the white pieces. Jamaal played d4. This was in the Eastern Open in 2018, so last December. Knight f6, bishop f4. So I think that's called the London system. I've never played this myself, but it's a good system. It's really flexible. You get your bishop out actively before you close the pawn chain with e3. And maybe you can play c4 or you can play c3. So it's just a flexible system, quick development. Okay, e6, getting out the bishop, and then Jamaal goes e3. So as I mentioned, he's closing the pawn chain and getting his bishop into the game. And then d5. So pretty much we have symmetry so far. Nothing, no huge imbalances have been created yet. Knight f3, developing, d5. Okay, so now things, now there's some tension in the center. So Jamaal chooses to go c3, which I think is good. I think that's a good way of handling it. Again, sometimes you can play for c4, but this is just solid. He says, I want to hold those dark squares in the center. I want to have d4, just have that, that grip on those squares, d4 and e5, the bishop aiming and the knight aiming. So yeah, it seems like this is all, standard for I think it's kind of like it's a London system, but I think the Coley system, I think that's where you don't get the bishop outside. So once that bishop gets to f4, I think that's considered the London system. So knight c6, knight bd2. Okay, natural development. He's kind of waiting to see what he's going to do with his bishop. Bishop e7, and then immediately he goes for it, knight e5. I don't know if you have to do that right away. So he's ready if his opponent takes to take back with the d pawn. The natural move, I guess bishop d3 is totally fine. Just bishop d3 and castles, can't go wrong with that. I don't know if there's any theory on this. If the theory says, if you go on leechess.org, if you click on the opening database, yeah, there's a lot of games that have been played here. So what they have is bishop d3 is the main move, 142 games, and that's so winning percentage would be 42% for white, which is pretty good. Knight e5 was also about the same actually in terms of winning percentage in practice, and so it seems like that's a really viable option. Let's see. Now, when they take it though, what do most people take back, with the pawn or the bishop? If you take back with the bishop, then suddenly black is doing really well. So you can see 50% draws, 50% wins. So you got to take with the pawn. So let's look at the book as he's doing for the first few moves, then we'll get off the book. Okay, it's a knight. So everyone did knight d7, and yeah, at this point, black is not doing so well. So don't recognize the names of those players. It looks like some Grandmaster Gordievsky in 2018 actually played this and beat Kunal, who's a much lower rated player, 2300. This looks like a pretty even matchup. Stepanova also won in 2018. Interesting. So I guess a lot of people are playing this recently. Okay, knight to d7, and then he goes knight f3. I was wondering about that. I'm thinking, do you have to bring the knight out there right away, or can you, again, kind of like when he was flexible with his initial waiting on the bishop? Well, maybe now he should be flexible with the knight and say, okay, I'm going to get the bishop out. Or I guess it looks like you can play h4. That 3 people played that and scored well, but bishop d3 is much more straightforward. h4 looks like it entails some kind of sacrifice, but it would open up the h-file against h7. I mean, how would that go? That's interesting. So if you do h4, And if they take it, what's the refuge? Oh, you have the attack against here with queen g4, it looks like, because you just get a double attack against here. Well, 2 attacking here, right? Plus you're attacking g7. So you just pick up the g7 pawn, and oh, then you're going to pick up the h7 pawn. And I don't think that black would want to venture into g5. That looks bad. That looks very, very bad. Well, let's see how would we handle that. Probably just, you know, I think you can play bishop h2 and just trap that guy. It's a little sketchy, but oh, there's like h5 and stuff, but you're threatening it in g3. Probably h5 would come down. I don't know. There's a lot of complications there, and then the queen's going to move, and then they can go here and escape. So maybe that doesn't work. What if you just go g3 and you say, okay, I'm going to take your bishop. Fine, you take my bishop. I take your bishop. Oh, but then this is hanging. I don't know. That's really complicated. Hold on. So if they take, just in case you want to try h4 out, queen g4 has got to be in the middle. Let's see. I'll plug it in real quick. I'm not going to. I'll only use the engine on the most tactical lines. So queen g4, g5. Oh, you have rook takes h4 right away, huh? I thought about that a bit, but I'm like, okay, takes and queen g7 maybe. What do you have there? If you take on h4, if they do take back, so basically like white can get away with a lot here. It looks like you can't even take the rook, and then queen g7 looks pretty strong. If rook f8, and then the bishop starts sneaking in, queen's got to move, and then what do we have? Just castle and attack. That's pretty cool. That's a cool line to know. I mean, if you're going for the attack, just let's see the justification. So queen a5, you're just playing down the exchange with a nasty attack. I mean, look at that bishop in there. Kind of like what happened in the game in terms of that dark square domination that he began with, getting those pawns in the center, and then it kind of started to extend to the king side. So anyway, it looks like you could play h4, and if your opponent falls for it, you go queen g4, and then you sack the exchange not with bishop h2. You just take it. With rook takes h4. That's kind of cool. And then you just go queen g7 and bishop e5. And you get really, really nice compensation, and the computer thinks that white is actually winning there. Okay, after knight f3. Again, I think it's not necessary yet. If nothing else, yeah, as the computer mentioned, or sorry, the book mentioned, bishop d3. You can't become too reliant on that computer, right? Bishop d3, just developing, and probably that one would go castle soon, right? After queen c7. Oh, and then knight f3 anyway, so it's probably fine. But he doesn't want a castle. Interesting. He really doesn't want a castle. Let's say queen. Who was this played by? So that 2400 game. That was. Oops. Well, let's look at it real quick. Let's just look at the next couple moves, just to know how to handle this opening. It's interesting. Oh wait, this actually was oh, so it was h4, then it transposed. h4, h5. The opening book will just show you, even if it's through transposition, it'll show you the other lines, I guess. So yeah, the h4 idea seems pretty compelling. Kind of like against the French, you can get the h4, h5 when you have that pawn on that wedge pawn on e5. Go for that king side attack and queen e2, and then he just goes for opens it up, and then he just castles, and then I guess he probably ends up later on getting some pressure in queen side somehow. Or, you know, it's interesting. Sometimes you can even attack the king side even when you're castled. That's where you have domination. Anyway, this is off topic, so I won't get too much into that. But it just shows you it's a really flexible system. If you're interested in that London system, and I think I've seen Jamaal do this before. He's looks like he's a devotee of the London system, and it serves him well. So, especially as you'll see in this game. So, but it gets complicated. It's not like he just crushed the guy. It was some back and forth, and then you'll see. Okay, so b6, reasonable. Get the bishop out. As you see, though, this bishop is kind of going to be struggling, and that in these types of French defense structures, you often see that bishop on c8 suffering. So he needs to find some life somehow. Okay, now the bishop comes out, and then at this point in the book, there's been 2 games, and both players won, and both players were relatively similar in strength, which tells you something. And now if you see like a 2600 against a 2300, then you're like, well, maybe it wasn't the opening, maybe it was just the player was way better. So you gotta take it with a grain of salt, but they're like 100 points apart, so that's something. And then h4 again happens there. So after g5 was played and bishop b7, but in the bishop b7 line, again h4. So maybe Jamaal or whoever else plays the system, go for it. Try h4. It seems like that's a really aggressive option in conjunction with the pawn on e5. Now, of course, black didn't have to take on e5. Maybe if you're playing with the black pieces, just don't take it and give them that wedge. It's up to you. So, okay, after bishop b7. All right, now let's end the book. Let's look at the rest. Okay. So castles, castles, queen c2. Direct strike at h7, and you're basically forcing, well, you're not forcing a pawn, this or this pawn to move. You can do g6 or h6. h6 is the most natural, like they did. You could do f5. That looks pretty sketchy, though. f5. Well, because if you take, then the idea is the knight takes back. But I don't know. I'm not liking black's position here. This is really weak here. You can, if nothing else, just go. You can't really. This is not really much of an attack, so you can easily guard that. But you can just stick your knight on e5, and I think white should be pretty comfortable there with the well-placed pieces. But it's not the end of the world for black. So again, black could try f5, a little more adventurous. But if they do f5, you don't have to take it either. You could, maybe you can get that c4 cracking. I don't know, because you want to try and work against its weaknesses, particularly against e6. So after h6, so now immediately when I see this played, I say, okay, we want to go for, if we can, some kind of like a bayonet attack, where we do g4, g5 and crack it open, possibly just through active piece play. But if we can get, like, and Jamaal did this, king h1, that allows us to do rook g1 and g4. And then, you know, you might even be able to do rook g3 and swing over here, maybe double rooks and prepare your g5 break and just bust it open to get to the king. So the bayonet attack is very attractive here. Also keep in mind that you can always play for e4, but I'm like, at the moment you see a bad bishop on b7 and kind of say, hey, why do I want to help your bishop activate against my king and my knight and the g-pawn, right? Why should we open that up? If you want to, okay, fine, make him sack a pawn to open it up. But when you do this, yeah, sure, it undoubles these pawns, but the double pawn's not the end of the world. So kind of it's those situations where, you know, you're told one thing about double pawns, but you got to really, you got to weigh it out based on the situation before you. So, well, then c4 is played. I don't like c4. See, as I mentioned, black might want to get d4 in. Whether it's a sack or not, I don't know, but he wants to free his bishop. That's the fundamental idea. If you don't free that bishop, probably you're at a disadvantage, right? Meanwhile, okay, sure, theoretically that's blocked, but it's supporting, it's reinforcing, how we call that overprotection by Nimzovich. He talked about that in my system. And simultaneously, main thing is that we're attacking over here against that theoretically a weakness. You can say it's stopping g5, you know, stopping pieces from coming in, but theoretically these can become weaknesses. They become a focal point and attacked. After c4 though, why is it bad? Think positionally, why is this a bad move? It may not be the end of the world, but first, there's two things I don't like about it. So Jamaal commonly goes back. First thing is, it gives white the d4 square. So anytime you want, you can you could swing a rook over there. Look at that. You can use that as a stepping stone to reach the king side, right? So that's very bad, I think, for black. Also knight d4. Secondly, we talked about the bishop on b7. So now you're really going to have to sack a pawn if you can even do it. You might get blockaded. But even if you push it, well, you're just dropping a pawn for basically nothing now. You can just take it, straighten out your structure, whites up the pawn. Sure, you free your bishop, but okay, it's like we talked about last time. It's not about, or this was in the Capablanca game, it's not about what you have now. It's about what you're going to have at the end of the line. So you can get fixated on the bad bishop and get rid of the bishop, but then, okay, fine, your bishop's good, but you're just down a queen pawn, and white just has a really nice pawn chain, and white's just almost winning there. A huge advantage. So it's just a bad position for black. It's amazing. Just that one hasty decision to go c4, it kind of, I'm sure that I'm curious. Let's just see how the valuation would fluctuate. So here it says black. It actually likes black here a little bit, minus 0.5. Like black's up half a pawn. After this, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe the computer likes it, but the computer likes a5. But so it doesn't really. The computer doesn't care. But in my mind, the evaluation should shift. I mean, okay, I can see that there's one benefit in that you can activate pieces here, but the fact that you're making this bishop permanently bad and giving the d4 square, I think it's something for white. I think white's much better here. So knight c5, and again, the computer won't always tell you about that positionally. So now the knight, and you have to sometimes give it some time to understand too, like after 5 to 10 minutes. So the knight wants to come in here, looking here, not bad. Knight d4. Okay, so he says, hey, you give me a weak square, I'm taking it, right? And then now you're opening up your bishop, just more possibilities are available. And the bishop goes to g5. I'm not so worried about that, because look, this is theoretically our bad bishop. That's our good bishop, right? We want to definitely show the superiority of this over this. Meanwhile, black wants to show the superiority of this one over this one. So if black is going to go ahead and trade off white's bishop, go ahead and do it, and then you're left with a better bishop. So that didn't hurt him too much. Bishop moves back anyway. Well, now you can see, I think Jamaal wants this maneuver with tempo on the bishop. So knight comes in, and then he's like, well, on second thought, let's trade bishops. So I guess, I don't know. I mean, if you'd taken it originally, queen gets in, yeah, you could take it and then go f4. But what if the pawn took? Pawn might get away with taking. Still maybe f4 and just rip open those lines, get in there with the rook. I think white's got to be better now. So he goes here anyway. Trades. I think that's fine. Well, now you can actually use this as a battering ram, which I think he did in the game. This can be used to thrust forward into the opponent's position along with the g pawn, which will help you to get that break on g5. Now, generally when it's a bayonet, you have a knight on f6. So if you get something like this and you hit him that way, then you're sort of, it's not really a fork, but you're hitting this and this at the same time. You're not winning a piece, but you're winning the ability to open up a line. You're prying open a line with that maneuver. You might get it anyway, or at least if they don't want to open it, they got to go h5 and drop their h pawn. So either way, it's benefiting you. Of course, you're creating weaknesses by pushing, but that's a risk you got to be willing to take if you want to, you got to go for the gusto. Or as I was working with Grandmaster Kobian growing up, he said, you got to risk if you want to drink champagne. I attribute that to a Kobian. So you have to sometimes, unless you can get it with lower risk. But hey, if you don't see any other way, got to go for it and take that risk. Queen h4, g3. So he just hits the queen. Queen goes back. Bishop goes to f3. I like that because you're hitting the knight, and you're saying, hey, I'm not just going to give you that bishop open on the diagonal, because there are some lines where you have to worry, like if you want to move your knight somewhere, which he does eventually, you don't want that bishop opening up. So now, anytime that pawn pushes, you just pick up the knight, or you might just go ahead and take it anyway, and again have that superior mounting piece of knight against bishop. Just don't let them take and push, and rather taking here and push and open up the bishop. So rook a8, knight b5, hitting the pawn on a7. And now you can see this is interesting. So he's looking at d6 and he's thinking, hey, what if I can get rid of this guy? And then when you take back, I can get knight d6 in. So, but the thing is, you don't get in immediately when he plays a6. What if you had taken first? Then I want to make that work, but if you take right away and then go knight b5, we'll see now again he's unleashing that bishop. And it looks ugly, but you might get away with it after f3, and then you're probably going to pick up the pawn, and like you can always secure this. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like you're making the ugly move, but the ugly move is right. Not to mention the knight is hitting this, but most importantly this. You see, you're kind of still getting everything you want, and you're winning a pawn. And when you come here, you're going to hit the bishop, and the rook. So I think it's probably playable to just go ahead and take it right away, and then stick your knight in there to get to d6. But I think that's what Jamaal probably had in mind. He's like, I'm going to go knight b5, and then I'm going to take it and get in. But the problem is when he goes a6. Well, now we end up having to. He trades. Oh, interestingly, so he would have gone into that, but he would have actually sort of gained a tempo because he wasted a move on a6 now. So yeah, he was willing to go for that. If he took, I guess he's just coming in, and then again push. Don't let him take f2. Just play f3. Make that your target. Be uncompromised. Right? It's coming a lot. Be uncompromised and say, hey, I know it looks scary, but I'm not afraid of it. That's what you want me to think. I'm not going to give into it. I'm just going to bypass it. I'm going to secure this right here. Maybe come here, pick up that pawn, have an awesome knight. Okay, the bishop's not as terrible as it was, but it's that transition, creating one imbalance for another imbalance. Okay, so after taking on b5, bishop goes back, rook f8. Now, okay, this is interesting. So we traded off the other minor pieces. So really it's coming down to the heavy pieces and the bishop versus bishop battle. Now, if this bishop doesn't get to free itself, it's awful, right? It's like a tall pawn. If he gets to play d4, you know, without losing a pawn, then black is totally fine. Maybe better, or at least equal. You know, you're activating your rook, you're trading off this bishop, which will weaken the white king. You got the a file you can always use, which you did. So it's a really fine, you know, fine line. It's really nuanced. This is a good game. So it starts with like an attacking idea that Jamaal had. I'm not sure his opponent was. But then his opponent defended pretty well. But it comes down to like positional chess now, and maneuvering. But that's going to lead to more tactics later on. Okay. So rook 81. And that's usually how games are, right? You kind of have like, it fluctuates. You know, it's not, it'd be nice if it was like one steady, you know, sort of one trajectory where like you get your attack, you knock them out, you're done, right? That'd be nice, but usually it's more back and forth, and you got to be patient, kind of roll with the punches. Okay? So rook 81, b4. Okay, so b4. That's interesting. So he's like, hey, if I'm not going to get to play d4, well, I could do it, but you're going to lose the pawn. So if I don't get to play d4, I'm going to play b4 at least, and try to rip open some lines, get some play on the queen side. Remember, that's a weakness on a3. Now, if you don't do it now, you're going to lose your chance to play b4. If you go rook a8, for example, white goes a3. Well, if you want to put, now you're just dropping a pawn again. So so again, you got that lockdown in the dark squares. You got, look at this. You got b3 guards f4, guards e5. d4 is guarded by c3, guarded by the rook. b4 is guarded by c3 and a3. Look at that lockdown. Everything is under your control here. As for the light squares, again, the light squares are still contested. You didn't give them over to black though, because if you push, unleash it, okay, now they're contested more. But as long as that bishop stays in there, the white pawn, or black having the pawns on the light squares, that's actually benefiting white, right? So if that makes sense, that was kind of a tongue twister there, but if that makes sense. So yeah, as long as that bishop is staying in there, the light squared bishop behind the pawns on the light squares. And again, if you look at the Capablanca game I did earlier this week, same exact thing, or except that was even worse, because that bishop was, as I said, it was stewing in his own juices. He was just completely squashed. He couldn't do anything. Whereas this guy, at least you can say, hey, I can play this move if I want to and free him for the price of a pawn. But in Capablanca versus Treyball 1929, oh man, that was bad. That was real bad. So after b4, rook d4. So Jamaal's like, all right, I'm not messing around. I'm not even going to give you the chance to play d4. And hey, maybe I might just play f5 and sack the e-pawn or something if you end up taking it and getting this maybe later on. Who knows? Or maybe I'll get this. And then imagine that setup, right? You're guarding this. You play f5. You shift over here. Queen's aiming in. You know, I always messed up those diagrams everywhere. So you can just imagine that. Okay, let's do a quick check again, with a grain of salt. But I think that, yeah, the computer it's interesting. The computer is not seeing what I'm seeing here, or I'm not seeing what the computer's seeing, because I think white's better here when you look at it. But when you judge it positionally, like the fact that the pieces are better, there's prospects for attack. The bishop's bad, but it's like it's saying black is winning here, basically, almost winning, like up more than a pawn. I don't know. It's based on some line where it probably thinks that black wins a pawn, or maybe it's that. See, like for a human, when you look at this and you see these attacking chances, like we think, okay, intuitively we know there's some attacking chances. The computer says it's not about the chances. It's about, do you have a mating line or something? So sometimes the computers, I think, can go astray because they're like, hey, I can win a pawn. They were more like in the past where they were like this. They say, hey, I can win a pawn, without realizing that there's some mating attack 20 moves down the line. It's not there now, but it could be set up, or some dangerous attack, some abstract thing. But they're becoming better at abstraction. But as a human, still, you're like, look, white's position better, right? Like there's a lot of good, the only good thing about black's position is the A file and the space advantage. But the pressure on the king side and the bad bishop, I think that is more than enough to give white an advantage. So again, we got to be critical about what the computer's saying, but still considering it. Maybe it's right, maybe I'm wrong on that. But general as a human versus human, I think white's better. Okay, in this position. So after rook a8, rook a1, b3. Okay. After b3, queen b1, b takes a2. Okay. Rook takes a2, queen c5. So, well, yeah, I mean, you can see that now suddenly black is, yeah, maybe black is starting to become a little bit better here. I mean, the pawn is still messing with the bishop, but you can see that there's a lot of pressure on the queen side. And at least he was, I think at least he was able to distract, right? At least he's able, because like Jamaal just wants to go ahead and, you know, make his king side attack work. And of course, that's the idea of queen side counterplays. You say, hey, I'm going to distract you from that, and then hopefully get something long-term I could work with on the queen side, which kind of he does. Basically, his opponent kind of wrests the initiative from him here. Trades off a rook too. You can always trade the a2 rook. And now he's like, hey, are you really going to get a mating attack on me here? If you don't get that mating attack, maybe I survive and then some, right? Maybe, and then he's striking back. There you go. There's the a file. King gets safe. And that was kind of funky. Okay. So he's like, okay, I'm going to hang my rook on a3. You can't take it because the queen, so it's pinned. Plus, I'm threatening to just take here and let my rook, you know, be hanging on c3 again. But in reality, it's fine. And he's trying to, and then he'll sort of break through towards. So he's trying to work through the side door in a way and get to the king that way, or just, and then if he wins this pawn, then he could just shove his pawns down, and then it's, yeah, definitely black who's playing for the win at that point. But he's got the initiative here. So Jamal's got to defend a little bit. He attacks the weakness. He's like, all right, I got this. I go rook d2. You have two attackers. I have two defenders. Queen b3. Now this is interesting because if you take that queen, and then he takes back, and then suddenly black, I think black's better there at that point. Yeah, because after takes, as long as you don't drop the b3 pawn. But look, you got the rook anchored in here on the 7th rank. You could always drop to the 8th, but you're attacking that target there. And most importantly, well, if you get the chance, you can go here. No, I mean, even if he goes here, still go here and challenge it. And you can just trade rooks. It might be equal then. Oh, the only thing is, no, he doesn't have time. If he goes here to try and come here, you're taking that b2 pawn, and you got a dangerous pass pawn on b3. Yeah, so you don't want to take the queen. And besides, again, that would totally kill your king side prospects and give black the queen side attack that he wants and an endgame that he wants. So okay, we got to play for more than that. So he moved away. So he moved away to queen c1, and then bishop goes to h3. What's going on here? Okay, so when it seems like an innocent enough move, it's like, hey, let me just shift my bishop around a little bit, but actually it's kind of deadly. So again, the queen side attack is strong, but it's kind of like, well, it's not really run out of steam, but it hasn't done anything else yet. I mean, you got b4 coming, and then if you take it, you got two connected pawns here that are pretty strong, but it's not that dangerous at the moment. And here, it's easy to overestimate your position and be like, oh, there's nothing that white has here. And then suddenly you get hit with f5, and then you're hitting e6 through the bishop, you know, playing here and trying to take that. And if they take, well, then you can take back, and then suddenly it's opening up the queen this way through the rook. The rook can come in again. You got the e6 move coming. So suddenly you bust it open. See, there's this tendency where you think, oh, things have been this way for a while. You know, like I've been safe over here, so I don't need to worry about it. I've fallen victim to that a few times in my games, where I've been like, okay, I can forget about that, and then suddenly it comes back and bites you. So don't forget that f5 move. If you're defending here against the king side attack, you have to watch out for f5. Okay, let's do it. Okay, I'm just curious again. Another quick glance. It still thinks black is better here. See, again, I think that's because if black plays really accurately, again, the king side attack shouldn't work. But if the king side attack works, then white wins, right? But yeah, theoretically on the queen side, especially if d4 works, because I mean, then you're opening up your bishop. How does d4 work? What's the threat there? I mean, let's say, oh, you don't have, oh, okay, you don't have rook takes because this hangs. Or do you? Well, let's say you take with the pawn. How bad is this? Oh, yeah, yeah, you got queen f3 now, plus b4, but queen f3 is pretty nasty. Now you can't even challenge the queen here. You got this. So suddenly, this sleeping bishop, which was awful, the tall pawn comes to life. You gotta watch out for that. Wow, that's a nasty possibility. Not to mention, I think it was saying that, see, so it can tell us some useful things that maybe we wouldn't have, maybe you saw it, but I didn't see it originally. Also, oh no, it was rather, oh, it did play b4, no, or he played b4, but it recommends d4. Not like the person actually played in the game. The computer recommends d4 takes, queen f3, oh no, rather also b4. And then, yeah, I mean, if this thing doesn't work over here, this is coming fast. So yeah, so basically black has to be really vigorous in his counterattack, because otherwise white's attack, I mean, it worked in the game. Let's see what the defense was, or what they could have done. After b4, which is the more natural move, bam, hits him with f5. Okay, again, get rid of you stockfish. Let's just analyze it. Okay, bishop c8, and then yeah, that was nice though. That was nice. Okay, what do you think he did here? I mean, you can see it on the right, but if you just look at the board, Jamaal's move was nice here. It's straightforward, but it's strong. f6, because I mean, now again, you're just continuing that assault on those dark squares on g7, h6, really strong attack. And then you can imagine, again, the rook maneuver, the queen maneuver coming in. Yeah, you can't, because the h4 pawn's there, you can't even go g5. g5 is just lost. In the game, he does g6, then he falls victim to rook takes d5. Oh, that's nice. You look at the threat. Nice discovered attack. It's a discovered attack along the diagonal. It's a clearance sacrifice, basically. He cleared the diagonal by taking here, so he could take on h6, and then you've completed your plan comes to fruition, and you complete your checkmate on g7 after this pawn chain breaks through on the dark squares, and you get the entire dark square complex, collapses. That's the focal point, g7. That was nice. Yeah, that was a nice shot. Nice. So even though it looked like black was kind of getting some momentum, and then you struck back with rook takes d5. King h7, and then yeah, that's got to be over. Well, you're hitting the bishop. Not only that, but now you got a nasty threat. What is Jamaal's threat here? You go to h8. That was nice. So he didn't miss this. He didn't miss this. When it counted, he made sure to finish him off. That's good. B takes c3. Now everything over here is collapsing. So it's like black's attack did break through. He got it, but it was like a move or two too late, because now, bam, forced mate. Beautiful. A really elegant finish. And then he resigned, but that would be the finish. G8. And again, as long as you have that focal point in mind, you're going after that square in g7, you do anything you can to make it work. That's how usually checkmating attacks work. You have a focal point, or maybe two focal points, areas of targets, and you just say, hey, I'm going to throw everything in the kitchen sink at you and make it work. That was interesting. So yeah, there are a few points to that game that are important to look at. So again, we kind of looked at the London system, learned how to play that a little bit, looked into the book. So anytime you play a system, just use the book a little bit and try to, most importantly, find a couple of really strong players, or even one. Just find one really strong player who plays that line. So for example, the London system, and just look up their games. 365 Chess is really good for that. I did a video on that about how you can use that. And chessgames.com, game collections. But the point is, you got to just understand how those games. How the grandmasters play it, and then you sort of mimic them in a way. You learn how to play like them, and then of course you take it in your own direction, but at least you know the basic ideas, how to get really good positions out of this, like the whole 95 idea, which turned out to work really well. But then you can learn about, for example, the h4 idea, which I think, yeah, you could have done right there, that cool h4 idea. So if you're playing the London system, you go into this line, go for h4. If you want to go, the adventurous or the risky route, go for it. Knight f3. d6, bishop d3, and then again at h6. Though when you see that, you're like, hey, I think he might have had that in mind. Rook g1 and just break it open, bayonet attack. Okay, again, the computer liked it, but I'm going to have to disagree with Stockfish from from a practical human perspective, because I think we got that human machine disagreement there. Because I mean, we can't play like machines. If I could play like a machine, I might like it. I might agree with its evaluation. But since we play like humans, we're not going to play perfectly. We're going to play a little bit more abstractly and more like themes based. So if I know I got a good square on d4, if I know your bishop's out of play, I like it for white. But maybe it sees something for black here that, like knight c5. But I would evaluate this as that white has definitely some assets that Jamaal was able to get here in this game. Okay. So it turned out you didn't need to go back because then the knight comes in. But, well, then again, I mean, maybe you can let him take on g3, but I kind of like the idea of getting rid of that bishop. No, you know what I like? I think I like just taking it. Just take it. And then if queen, you're going to get f4. And even if it takes here, I think f4 is strong now. Now, I mean, we could probably take back with the pawn if we wanted to. The interesting thing about knight here is it guards this, so it gives f6, makes f6 more possible. I mean, I can't disagree with that. Well, f6 is going to weaken him more on the light squares. You got this and this coming. You got doubling up coming. Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that. I think that's good. I don't like that for black here. I don't think you should play this, allowing that. So maybe you could just take it, but get a little shuffle around. They come back, and then this was interesting though. The battle of the minor pieces, where you had the chance to kind of go for the knight versus bishop, didn't quite happen that way. And again, no, actually, you know what? If you wanted to get the same thing, okay, there's the difference. So on this line, Jamaal gains the move with 8 because his opponent had to play a6. In the other line, for sure you're going to get your knight to d6 if you take it right away. Because then when you take it back, again, you may have to allow that ugly looking here, but d3 check, you just block it, and you're guaranteed to get into d6. I think that might have actually granted more of an advantage, just chopping it. It's a hard move to make because this bishop is so bad, but again, you're opening it up, but again, it's about that transition, transitioning from one imbalance to another imbalance. Okay, after knight b5, a6, knight bishop takes. But again, I mean, you still, okay, generally speaking, if you're playing against the bad bishop, I want to have a knight, especially in a close position. I want a knight against that bad bishop, just like in your face. My knight is awesome, your bishop's terrible, right? That's what I want to have. But second best thing is bishop versus bishop. And again, the tray ball game, Capablanca versus tray ball, he had options where he's like, hey, if you bring your knight in, I'm going to chop it with my bishop, have an awesome knight on e5. So go back and check out a couple of videos ago, the Capablanca game. Really, one of my favorite games by Capablanca. So it's kind of similar themes because they had really closed up positions with minor piece differences and so forth. But yeah, now here black is doing what he should do with getting the break, and he gets a ton of counterplay. So Jamaal's like, all right, well, I thought I was just gonna, maybe I was hoping I was gonna just dominate and get my win right away, but now my opponent's throwing some stuff at me, so I have to deal with it. But hey, he kept a cool head. What you need to do, just keep a cool head, be objective, play solid, and you wait for your chances, He's like, all right, gotta do what I gotta do, stop that. And then suddenly that sly bishop h3, that was nice. From here on, Jamaal's like, yeah, I mean, I can't really, the only thing is maybe that little bishop f4 or g3 maneuver, stuff like that, that might have been slightly inaccurate, Again, we're not Stockfish, we're not Komodo, right? We make mistakes, but hey, the point is you're able to make it work. You can easily adjust and correct for that. But yeah, if black had played perfectly here, maybe he could have had something that looks like according to Stockfish. But again, practically speaking, we're not playing against machines, we're playing against other humans. So practically speaking, this was really strong. Now you know what? I think he probably had to take it at that point because yeah, f6 is just nasty. I mean, again, there's some crazy. Oh, maybe it's that he needs to go here. He may need a shuffle. But I see that the evaluation is starting to go down, down, down for its evaluation of black's position. Because at first it was like minus 1.5 for black. Now it still thinks black is a little bit better, I guess, because the structure and the pressure. As long as white doesn't have a checkmate, right? Again, that's the thing about kingside attacks. It's kind of like you are risking. Again, going back to the risk reward question. You're risking a lot when you do a kingside attack. I like to play flexibly where I can go either way. But hey, just because you have the pawn on e5, you don't have to do, you can play both ways. But in this case, white gets the kingside attack, black gets the queenside attack, pretty standard. But yeah, of course, f6. And then I guess g6 was the losing move. Boom, it's over. Mate rook d5, brilliant move that Jamaal found, and it's over. And not just because you get you get that, but then the second cool thing was rook h8, but it was all part of that same sequence that began with f5 to f6. So yeah, really nicely done, Jamaal. Yeah, really nice. Get that finish. Honestly, yeah, there wasn't much critique, but it's more like, it's more about what Black did in this game, because it's like White ended up winning, but what was it that his opponent did that allowed that to happen? And again, if he had played perfectly. But it is useful to know, like from a defensive standpoint, both as an attacker and a defender, because then hey, is this going to work or not as an attacker if they have the defense? As a defender, hey, can I just, if it doesn't work, if I know I have a really good defense, like the computer saw, then maybe I can go ahead and not play g6 at the end of the line and get mated on through letting the queen to h6, and maybe I can crash through on the queen side and actually make it work. But in that case, I think somehow Black needs to play a little more vigorously and then defend a little bit better at the end by not playing. The main mistake, it looks like, that really got him was g6. Boom, it's over. Just bishop e7, I guess. It's not, because there's no immediate threat there. It's just like, it's bad. So again, even if you get this stuff here, practically speaking, it looks bad. But again, if it doesn't work, this stuff, this stuff is coming here once they crash through. There's a lot of pressure, so it's a double-edged sword. But it was a great game. So thanks for submitting it, Jamaal. Hopefully you guys got something out of it. And yeah, that was I think that was the 10th one that I counted through. Some of them have multiple videos. I think that was our 10th game that I analyzed. So just keep them coming. I think I may have one more that someone sent me, so try and find that. But yeah, keep them coming, and I'll try and every few days try and get some more analysis in. All right, have a good weekend.